Are we gonna do something with the carpet, the tape on the carpet?
Pull up the carpet, put on the carpet.
Yeah.
Same kind of carpet. No doubt.
Why not hardwood
Cool, like
Well, we talked about laminate or something, but,
Yes, sir.
carpet's functional, this carpet's been 30 years. You know, if you get a good grade
Right,
Carpet.
carpet.
and it's,
Did somebody turn the TV on back there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So why was she gonna call me and didn't?
No, it's- I'll explain. Thanks.
the time has arrived.
Yes.
All right, so this is a work session, or the statute actually calls it a study session for the purpose of considering these two budget line items. Study sessions, the mayor and I were having this conversation. This is your time to direct the staff how to prepare the final budget for your approval. So he was saying, it's a work session, we don't really have to decide. And well, no, you gotta decide, because Sue doesn't know what to present to you in September for your final vote. You can't wait till September to make the decision. So, whatever decisions you wanna make along the way, add, subtract, whatever, really need to be made tonight. And if we get a consensus, then there's no problem. If there's some disagreement, then we'll have to have a vote on the issues that you disagree on, so we can get the proper direction from the board. There's no format for a study session, so we don't have an agenda really. We have an order that we want to consider them, and so it's kind of up to the mayor to use the power of the gavel to decide how he wants to proceed. The first one up tonight, Steve, you want to pull your chair up to the table? Is water and sewer.
No, that's mine.
Recall that
Sorry about that.
the water and sewer is funded solely from user fees, and the money we receive can't be spent for any other purpose. So it was never a question of diverting money, although we have exercised some creative accounting from time to time. Eventually, I mean, the city, for instance, might ask the water department, tap the water department for some expense, but we have to pay it back. We can't just spend water department money and never reimburse the budget for it. But it kind of helps with cash flow sometimes, if we can do that.
32. Yeah, we're gonna be looking at pages 32 through 35 first on the water department.
I have no more to say. Oh, before I even proceed, I want to thank Sandra for the idea of doing this, and I want to thank Sue for using her advanced skills to produce a pie chart. The idea here is we look at these budgets and these line items, and we never kind of look at the whole, kind of say, get a sense of how it fits into everything. So the first one you have is the general revenue, which does not include water and sewer funding, or the transportation funds, or the park funds, or the cemetery funds. It's just how we get our revenue that goes into the general fund, and what the percentages are for each of the items. The second page is, again, general fund expenditures. So this is how it came in, this is how it goes out. And then the final page is a combination of all of our revenue sources, and we didn't do a revenue pie chart, but all of the categories in which general fund, road tax fund, water and sewer revenues are spent as a percentage of the total.
What was the one you just said, road tech, what was that?
The sales tax for transportation, that's called a road tax.
Okay, sorry.
The transportation trust fund,
Okay,
sorry.
no problem.
So again, it kind of gives you a context, order of magnitude for the various budget items.
Okay.
So 32% of what the city spends comes out of the general fund, and everything else comes out of these dedicated funds? That's, I'm interpreting that correctly?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So the only amount that we really have any control over at all is 32% of the,
Well, no,
expenditure.
well, in terms of discretion, moving
Right.
from one category of expenditure to another, within each category, of course, you get to decide.
Right.
Are we gonna buy a truck, or are we not gonna buy a truck?
right.
But if Steve wanted a truck, and he's not asking for anything, you couldn't say, no, we're gonna spend that $40,000
On a street.
on, or band, or whatever.
Right.
Okay, Steve. You want to go through your budget and kind of give a brief explanation of the things that may have changed, starting with the water fund, page 32?
See, as far as that goes, rates will be typical 2% increase, the way it was laid out years ago. As long as we continue that, that should be where we'll come in as far as the revenue goes and metered water sales. I think everything's pretty cut and dry across the board. On the second page, you'll notice the sludge. In years past, that was around $80,000 to $90,000. Got that up to $125,000. The lime ponds down there that we use to store our lime sludge from the treatment plant, they've never been cleaned out. Last year, we had the opportunity to clean out one of them. This coming year, I'd like to clean the other one out as well.
So next year's budget won't reflect 100 and something thousand for
No, it
sludge?
won't have the 125,000 in there, nor will it have the 90,000 that typically done every year.
I have one question, Steve. What is the salaries here? Whose salary is that?
We allocate the staff, the office staff salary by the departments that they serve.
Gotcha, okay. So this is Megan.
Right. Part of Sue.
It's half Megan, half of Laura's, a fourth of mine, and 7% of Tam's.
Okay, gotcha. Has nothing to do with any of his salaries.
No.
Okay.
From there, you go into some supplies and fees for credit cards. That's those numbers are given to me by Sue. Pretty much everything down to page 35, down to the capital outlay. You'll see infrastructure improvement. There's $30,000 there. That's for a rebuild of a high service pump at the water plant, high service pump or a transfer pump at the water plant, and a contactor located inside the water plant as well. All these items we had to, there's duplicate units at the water plant. They've all been replaced in the past year or two.
You've got 25-year service out there.
Yes, there's 20-year service life on those, and we're pushing 25. Bearings are starting to make some noise. They'll need to be replaced. I'd rather be on our schedule than.
I agree.
Let's see, water tank improvements. That's contract with Suez Group for the water tower maintenance. Utility Services Group, you guys may have seen them in town. They're the ones that paint our water towers. They clean them, they inspect them, keep us compliant with DNR as far as towers go.
Is that going to go up significantly with the new tower? Once that's in?
No, the new tower wouldn't even be considered to be put on a maintenance program for probably the first 10 years.
Okay.
Once we get to that point, we'll
Anyway.
revisit it.
They're the ones that fix the lights when they're out.
Yes. Work order's been made. They're also going to replace the man door on that tower.
You are the light patrol.
I got asked on that one.
The electric utilities is kind of a big jump from last year to this year.
Yeah.
Is that?
What line are you on?
6710.
6710.
34. 25?
You can see that we've already, at the 10-month actuals, we've exceeded what we projected this year. That's due to a rate increase and as far as Citizens goes.
And with another tower, it'd be more, right?
That tower will use about $30 a month.
Really? Okay. Well, that's good news.
That'll cut down on our pumping into that area too, so.
It won't necessarily cut down on the pumping, it'll add reliability to the area.
Well, it should cut down on the cycling of the pump.
The cycling of the pumps, yes. We will
Still have to pump the
decrease
same
it.
amount of water,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that I think ultimately results in less maintenance on the pump.
Yeah,
They talked about that for here, too.
Right.
Yeah. And we transfer the water at night instead of during the day, you know, the cost will be cheaper as well.
I would think. But I think the initial outlay is kind of pricey.
Any questions on the water?
Discount, I think it's still expensive.
Okay.
I may be
But you
wrong.
are solvent.
Well, and overall, it's less than last year.
Yes.
That's because we don't have capital.
Right.
Like new trucks or.
You got it well, right?
No, he gets it from us.
Okay, moving on, sewer.
Sewer,
Page 36 and 38?
Yeah.
some,
36 is the revenue figure, same explanation as water.
Yeah.
Gonna get a little bump on our rate schedule.
little bump there. We did have to replace the rotor this past year unexpectedly, it cost about $25,000. So I particularly made this one very tight. Try to put that money back in the emergency fund where it needs to be. Everything's pretty well even across the board, same as the water. You get to the capital improvements, there's $20,000 there. That would be for dissolved oxygen probes for the wastewater plant.
Where you at, Steve?
Page 38 on the sewer budget,
Line 8,000.
capital outlay.
Okay, gotcha.
The $20,000 there is for dissolved oxygen probes at the wastewater plant. They will control the rotor speed. Right now, we have to do it manually. This will allow us to tie those into our frequency drives, and they'll run in a set parameter. Everyone I've talked to on those will pay for themselves in 2 to 3 years.
That looks like we've traditionally spent a lot more in that category.
Yeah, that's where I said, we spent
Thank you.
we spent $125,000 and trying to recover it back to the emergency fund balance.
That's it. Good.
I'd rather go forward than backwards.
That's a good plan.
So, anybody got any questions on that? I'd be happy to answer.
Well, I would say, from my perspective, it's a nice report.
Thank you.
I agree. And above all, it's salt. Other things pay for themselves. It is, with certain things. Doesn't work too good with oil, but it's.
Well, as I said, not much we can do about this
Not
anyway.
really. No. It is what it is.
Trust his judgment.
Got the explanation.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Andrew, you're up.
Page 25.
You have to bring my own chair.
Yeah, well, there you go. Got it. 25
Page
is so much.
25.
Yes, page 25.
So-
I
No, go ahead.
was gonna say 25 is in control of the tax.
Oh, is that one?
Yes.
So
So they don't get to
if you're
decide.
looking at page 25, that one is reflective of the revenue that is brought in through the 2% lodging tax within the city limits, and by statute, the decisions about the expenditures of those funds are overseen by the Tourism Tax Commission. So this budget is always a pretty conservative budget, estimating what those revenues would be and a safe level of expenditures. and keeping a fallback just in case revenues are late to come in or the economy takes a downturn and there's still available funding there. So the actual the tourism budget with salaries and marketing and so on is on page 16 and 17 in your packet. So there's a couple of things I would like to just kind of point out to you on the tourism budget. First of all, in reviewing it, I actually I do a year-end projection, and then where I think will really be in the end of that fiscal year to put together my estimate of what the following year request should be. And so in the top section there, if you look at the budget and actual and proposed FY19, I actually reviewed a lot of our insurance expenses and looking at where I think we're going to be on the end of the year and no changes anticipated for next year in that category. I was able to, in that subtotal personnel, you see that the budget request is actually $1,100 lower than it was last year. And then in the next section, I think we're going to save a little in janitorial supplies, so I asked for a little bit less there. Then at the bottom of that next section, that's subtotal capital outlay, I lowered our request for building improvements, and that gave us a net savings in the budget from one year to another of about $2,600. But since, if you are on now on your booklets, page 17 at the bottom, one of the things that I think it's helpful to point out for this budget, because it's kind of like water, there are some places where revenues come in and it's not coming out of general fund, so that's what you're seeing at the bottom there. Note the following general fund revenue accounts offset line items in this budget. So although these two pages you just looked at are all expense line items, they have some revenues associated with them that are not shown on these two pages, and those are listed down here. We do sell some souvenir items, city flags, things like that down at the Welcome Center, and that is about $24.50, and that helps offset expense line items 6605. We also, one of our largest expense line items are tour expenses, and that expense line item is $26,500. Our revenue line item associated with that is $28,000. So that $26,500 is actually not coming out of the general fund. The same with the $3,000 that offsets the co-op grant. So the co-op grant is shown in the budget as $6,000, but that's a 50% match from the state, and those $3,000 are shown on a different sheet. So you have that line item. And then grants vary from year to year. That one in particular is a 50% match, but some of the grants that we apply for are 100%. So although we have a line item in the expenses that says grants for tourism, a proposed budget of $15,000, that's only if we get a grant for $15,000 would we spend that. So those items together that are not coming out of general fund total $46,950.
I understand when we receive a dollar, she has a line item, she makes expenditures like inventory for the line item. She sells something, we don't restore the line item. That money then goes into the general fund. So she's right into her explanation of how the end result is, but you don't ever see those things happening from month to month in the budget.
So that 26.5 number, what actually is involved in those tour expenses?
So that's when a tour group comes into town and we, so we might reserve a step-on guide for them to do a tour of the historic district, or if they're the riverboats, the step-on guide actually gets on at Chester, rides the bus all the way over, telling them about St. Genevieve, does the historic district tour. We also do, like if they're going to see the historic sites, we coordinate that itinerary, and at 11 o'clock they're here, 12 o'clock they're there, 1 o'clock they're here. And those tour guides, they don't want to pay at the door at every place, they want one-stop shopping. So that's what we offer, one-stop shopping. And we don't charge them a fee to do that, so it's very attractive to them to have their schedules coordinated by us. So they come into the Welcome Center, we have an invoice prepared for them, they pay it, and it goes into that revenue item, which is account line item number 4123, and then we pay the expenses based out of that. So if they had, $3 a person to tour the Felix Valley site, let's say, or $3.50, we pay the Felix Valley site at the end of the month. I have to make up a list of how many tours went through each property, how much is owed, and I give that to Sue, and she cuts a check from that line item 7106. And by the end of the year, it might get to 26.5, but for instance, this year, at the end of July, I guess, we were 7106. Yeah. It was 11,740. Oh, you've got an updated one, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. Right. So it would only get up to 26.5 if we took in more money than, obviously, than the tours. So.
Looking at the salaries and stuff, we're, right at $100,000, already for 2018. How many hours Welcome Center is open per week?
It's open 9 to 5, 7 days a week. And I did think of, what if on Sundays we closed from 9 to noon and the savings was like less than $2,000, so it didn't seem worth it to propose a change of operations. If we got into really grim circumstances, we probably could do that. But occasionally you have a tourist, that wants to know something between the hours of
Bless you.
Bless you. So 7 days a week, 9 to 5.
I get around there pretty early. Sometimes they're out there walking at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
But that's not only, in these salaries is not only Welcome Center salaries, or it is.
It is Welcome Center salaries,
Okay.
and my salary is tourism director. I'm based out of there, but
Right.
I only come out of the back when I need a break or no.
How many employees do you have?
I have 6 part-time people.
6 part-timers? Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of them are retired teachers. They only want to work 1 day a week. I get them stay current on things, and they're excellent at answering questions and working with groups of people, especially handy in this time when we have a lot of school children.
Yeah.
And under employee insurance, do any of them get insurance, or is that just you?
No, not as part-time.
Okay, so
But-
go ahead.
And that is why I reduced it for next year, because my insurance doesn't come in that expensive, so I thought, why budget for it if it's not that much?
How come
But
it's,
who knows, it might change next year.
Well, you never
I mean,
know.
I know we're getting different quotes and stuff, but
It's not going to go down.
No, it never goes down.
Well, it might go down. Remember I told you we're working on this deal that's a cooperative, where
Right.
they're going to maybe self-fund for the worst-case scenario, and that could lead it to be less.
Jimmy, you got a question?
yeah, Sandra, how come your insurance is higher in comparison to the other departments?
I would have no
Per
idea.
person?
It's,
Yes, per person.
Every employee opts for the level of insurance that they want. And if you're single without a family, there's no family expense. If you take, you can buy up by spending some of your own money to a little bit better plan. Some people opted to do that. Some people have a wife and 3 children on it. So It all depends on the package and the family circumstances. You can't just divide the figure by the number of employees and come up with an accurate per employee cost.
Because every employee's circumstance is different.
And there are options
And we-
even within the same circumstance, they have options.
And
That won't show as an expense.
we offer coverage for employees' families as a perk to
Yes.
really take, yeah, because it's
Do
a,
we pick up 100% of family?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost.
Almost?
It's like 97%.
Well,
Do we ever audit that?
Every-
Well, we had a.
Every renewal year, we audit it.
Well, no, that's not what I'm talking about. You know, we recently had an employee, his spouse worked for Centene, had a very good insurance plan, paid for by the company. The company basically came back and they called it an audit. They went through and basically sent a letter with each employee and said, if your spouse works somewhere that offers insurance, you have 30 days to get them off here or you're terminated. You know, so basically, everybody was kind of responsible wherever they worked for their own insurance. If they worked somewhere that offered insurance, they had to get on that insurance policy, whatever it was.
I'm not aware of every employee's circumstances. I don't know anybody here, in the office that's double insured.
Well, yeah, but that could happen,
Could.
right?
I mean,
I think it's something we should,
for instance, I offered
It's
insurance.
not illegal, though.
No. It's a policy decision.
you can't double dip on billing anymore like you used to be able
Well,
to
one
years
becomes
ago.
primary, one becomes secondary.
Right.
Right.
So you're
Correct.
not-
So, but yeah, you never get both paying,
Right.
but you
Yeah.
might get one paying something where the primary didn't cover it, so the secondary picks it up.
Right.
Well, normally the primary don't cover secondary then either.
Well, yeah. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, so if somebody, the street department worker's wife worked at the school and she had coverage and he came in and we offered him coverage and he took it, then he'd essentially be double covered.
Right. Well, basically, what I've seen in the past is whoever's insurance is the most beneficial, that's what they have a tendency to go to. And sometimes that seems a little, and this is not, just as in general, it seems like somebody pays for insurance that they shouldn't be paying for, or, somebody works as their primary employer, then that's where the benefit should be paid. But, it's getting to be such a huge expense, it needs to be looked at and monitored.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could poll our employees. I mean, how did one insurance company know another person's coverage? Is there some kind of database they all look at or something?
You have to list on your application when you fill it out if you have other coverage through another provider.
Correct.
You have to list that on the
We had that information.
application.
But a lot of times, that's only done at the initial time of employment. It's not something that goes back through. They went back through, this company did, they went back through and looked to see where everyone that was on the dependent insurance was working and if they offered insurance or not, so that they weren't paying the bill.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
so
it's something we can talk to Lakeland about, see what we can do. But I think ultimately the decision about whether you would withdraw coverage is a policy decision for the board. I don't think it's an insurance company decision.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Because basically, as a whole, what does the city pay for, we've got it by department, but I didn't look back to see what is the entire insurance bill.
It's like 20,000.
Yeah.
How many employees?
Oh, and everybody's covered.
23, 24 employees.
so 240,000 a year
Roughly.
for 20 employees. If we were in Canada, that would be 0.
And get it somewhere else.
Policy decision. I just wanted, unless you have anything else about the insurance in particular, which I don't know much about, other than I'm the only one in my department currently. If I ever had someone who was part-time, like 32 hours or more, they would be eligible to sign up for insurance, what I understand.
And she's not working anyone like 28 hours just to stay under the threshold. Because you also can't do that.
Right.
I also wanted to address, well, two things. First of all, the very first work session that you had, which I think was on August 9th, I was actually presenting about St. Genevieve in St. Louis that evening. So when I saw the information that came out in the newspaper article, there were questions about the services that the National Park Service will offer. And so I met with Martin, and we invited Tim Good to come here, and he did come here. And this is actually, I included it in my Board of Aldermen report for later, but I just wanted to kind of lay this out for you because we asked him some pretty direct questions about, because I think the implication was, well, even though they're 6 to 12 months out, is there going to be some duplication of services or something like that? I think it was one of you gentlemen that brought it up. So, and thank you for Alderman Donovan for coming to that. But this is what I understood from what Tim Good told us. So we asked him about questions of marketing, advertising, guest services, and anticipated timing for the park development. He's clarified for us that the NPS does not provide marketing or promotional services for a destination or even of the site, the National Park site, other than listing it on their National Park Service website and their National Park Service maps and a sign on Interstate 55, which we all know about that. We're excited about that to get here. The park office, wherever they pick to have their park office, they will have guest information services about the national park facilities and answer general questions, but they would refer to our Welcome Center for specific local attractions, step-on guides, group tour services, maps, other guest services that we currently offer now. So, and then he verified that the time frame for establishment is still to be determined, but he estimates that it stands at 6 to 12 months. So,
I lean very much towards the 12 months.
well,
I think
what can you do in 6 months?
Federal government.
12 months is realistic.
If you're in business for yourself, you do a lot in 6 months. When you're the
Yes.
government,
That's
that's a
right.
whole other deal.
So I
20
just,
years.
if that was still on anyone's mind, I think I've talked to several people in between there that have contacted me to ask some of these questions, but if that's still on anyone's mind, at least you know exactly where we stand on that now.
Is that accurate information, Bob?
He was very informative. I mean, one of the issues that he brought up could be very helpful to the city was that, you know, with the national parks, we now qualify, I guess was the best word, for grants, federal grants. And one of the federal grants that got my attention was any roads leading into a national park, we would qualify for money to pave those roads from wherever. And I'm sure it's just within the city limits and stuff, but that caught my eye. But and he also passed information along. If any of you guys want to talk to him, I don't have his phone number, but I'm sure Sandra and Martin does. He invited you to call him. He's not going to be our area director.
Yes, he will be our superintendent, but it's called an interim superintendent.
Right.
That could last for 6 months or 5 years, we don't know. But he's worked very closely with us these last 3 or 4 years.
And the reason he did that is because of his passion for St. Genevieve.
Right.
He asked for it, he wasn't forced on it.
But he was pretty clear to the fact that there would be no shared expense on, you know, Welcome Center. I mean, they're looking for, what, 3,000 square feet, and they're actively looking for a site.
He also told us that all of the eyes of the National Park Service are on St. Genevieve. We're monitoring press reports of our activities and whatever information is out there. It shows up on their daily, weekly information sheet that the director gets.
Like a tip sheet.
Yeah, and, you know, like the president gets his briefing they put together every day, thing, well, they do the same thing for the director of the National Park Service. And he said he's never seen things move as, he said he thinks 6 months to a year is a long time. He said there's some parks that haven't, are on the books but have never been created. This is moving a lot faster than he's ever seen.
Well, I don't think it would be a stretch to say that just simply them being here is going to draw people in.
We're counting on that.
You know, I mean, what I'm getting at is they don't have to advertise, just them being here. And there are people who, that's what they do, is go to national parks.
They chase them.
They chase them, just like chasing the Grateful Dead. These people go to national parks. That's what they do.
My
So,
fear is that they will be here and we won't be ready. And we really have to put our
What-
thinking caps on and make sure we're prepared for that. And it has
Well-
to- with lodging and parking and all the things that we
Oh.
promote.
He was very complimentary too on all of the local efforts, not necessarily just tourism, but, you know, he spoke of the county and, you know, their investment they're making out there, of how positive that looks for us. But I mean, he, you know, the police, the fire, I mean, he was very complimentary, the administration, you know, that it was definitely a combined effort, and he was very, not only he was very impressed, but we had caught the ears of a lot of people that he's never seen that much interest in the amount of money that they're budgeting. He was still amazed that we drew that much attention, and I don't know, I think all of us were down at the hotel that morning for breakfast. I've never seen that many people, and two state senators here at the same time, and I don't know how many from the national parks.
so did the feds buy everybody breakfast?
No.
They can't do that.
But we did not buy their breakfast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't do
Just
that.
curious.
Right.
Just curious.
You know, as you look back at this park thing, you know, we've all set, we've asked, you know, how are we ever going to increase our revenue? What can we do? You know, we don't have any major businesses that I know of moving in. You know, this national parks is probably a one and only shot we have to increase any of our sales tax.
I think it's one of them. I think it's one piece of the puzzle. I think you
Yeah.
got this learning center coming online. You got that aqua center coming online out there next year. You're gonna see a lot more people in this town, and people are gonna spend money. They're gonna come here, and they're gonna come get a hamburger at McDonald's before they go home, or they might decide they're gonna make this a weekend, you know, and that's where they, now, you know, they'll have something for their kids, more to do. And
Now-
that's what people, it's gonna be a destination, you gotta have it, so it's gotta be a family-friendly event.
Now, by learning center, you mean the museum? Is
The
that what you
museum,
mean?
the
Right,
learning center,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I think that thing is gonna be incredible.
Sounds like
I mean,
it.
Everything I'm talking about and talking to with these people, they said it's gonna draw quite a few people into this.
Well, that's a good thing.
It is a really good thing. Yeah, I think I think things are gonna level themselves out here very well. I think we're gonna see more revenue. Now, mind you, it could be 3-4 years from now, I don't know. I think once the park is set in here, and once that community center's up and running with their pool, that's gonna be, I think within a year, I think you'll start seeing that sales revenue, the sales tax go up.
We just,
One
what
of the-
happened with the community center pool, kind of the same issue we have with the wineries and state parks. We have to make sure we have the information out there that gets them here.
Right.
Cause them to want to come into town.
That was one of the questions I had, is, you know, they can't advertise. They can only advertise for one federal thing, and that's the Department of Defense.
Oh, good point. Yeah, he mentioned
You know,
that.
he did say that they will, you know, in some of their national parks, they will put maybe some of our brochures in there. Our
Yeah, they'll
direct-
do that up in St. Louis at the museum up there. They'll be, they got that up there, they put that display up there of vertical log homes, and if you want to see some, you can travel to St. John.
It's not up yet.
It's not there yet, but that's
Yeah.
the plan.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the plan.
So it's advertising in an indirect way. They may not be putting commercials on TV or putting up billboards, but they are,
Their arrowhead.
what they're doing is gonna bring people in.
Right.
And that's exactly why we've been pushing for it for these many years. I mean, this is what we've been striving for. This is, before the 5 years I've been here, we've been working on it hard for 5 years. people were working on this that are dead now.
I asked him what he's seen the national parks in a few years, what, I think, what are they signing on the Emerald House, the 31st?
That's correct, a week from tomorrow.
Right. They'll eventually take over more, and I said, what, are you gonna take over our town? No.
They don't have the budget, that's,
Right.
that's everything,
But there
when
could
this was
be
coming.
more properties acquired.
People, that was people's concern, and I had people wanting to see me, I met with people, we want to meet with you to try to tell you to stop it, because they're gonna come in, they're gonna take the whole town over, and bigger government, and this is not the case here. This budget is not that big to do anything like that. Are there gonna be some improvements? Absolutely. I think we're gonna be benefiting from that.
And it will employ several people too.
That's right, there's gonna be some people employed.
He said he's already budgeted to hire 2.
2 in the beginning, and then as they grow and have more properties to manage, I suppose. Right now, it's all properties that are being donated to them.
You said a sign. Sandra, what are you talking about, a sign? Out on the interstate? That
Yes,
would say-
so it would say, like right now, we have historic downtown St. Genevieve next exit. There would be another one like that, probably, are they green or brown when they're National Park Service?
I was
But
wondering about that.
it would have their arrowhead on it, and it will say St. Genevieve National Historic Park, next exit.
Wow.
So,
Arrowhead's brown.
I know that Felix Valley went on 55.
That's brown.
Or not Felix Valley, but.
you're right,
That's right.
because it's a state park. Yeah.
Oh, the
So they'll switch that one, because that property is going over, isn't it?
No, it's not. The Felix Valley will stay the Felix Valley State Historic Site, and the Amaro, and possibly others. The others that have been discussed specifically, Joe, are the Dela Sue Kern, which is down at, 6, where that is. That would be a favorite for everyone. But, and possibly what they call the Creole House, which is, is the Wilhawks house there, that gray one right behind the Emerald House on St. Mary's Road.
It's a newer.
Yeah, it's like kind of a 50s, 60s ranch-style house. And,
Was it ever a house?
Yeah.
Yeah, they lived there. They used to live
and
there.
it was
the
used as a bed
Wilcox?
and breakfast.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Sounds like.
Jim, you probably inspected it at some point.
Had an indoor swimming pool.
Oh. And then some like grassy strips to kind of connect it. So,
Joe, you got a question?
Well, I was just looking through not only this department, but the other ones. There was some talk about switching telephone services to like VoIP or something like that.
Yeah, it ended up being more expensive.
Oh.
Both, we were not informed of the original conversation about the upfront expense. And it ended up that the rates weren't any better than what we have now. So
Okay.
we'll stick with it.
Was that just for this building, or were you gonna do it at
No,
all?
it's just for this building.
Oh.
The police.
that's all I got. Unless there are any other questions, or any other comments?
You want me to ask them about it? Okay, there was talk at one point about the Citizens Electric offering some incentive to install solar panels on buildings.
Citizens Electric? That was an outside company that I talked about when I first got elected about doing solar panel. Matter of fact, I had all the legwork, everything on every building. Sue got me at what it was costing us to do the electric and what would, so there's a guy out there that's chomping at the bit to come visit this board, but the problem you have is that upfront expense,
cost
and
is-
especially for a city, because with a homeowner, there's some incentives, so that was the only thing holding me up, but, yeah, there was a substantial savings, and looking at the buildings, if you look at that water department over there, it'd be an ideal place to put up solar panels, and you would,
Shared solar.
now be a while, but you would save some.
On the website, the city of, Citizens Electric contacted me as a small retail company and asked if I'd be interested in the shared solar that they have, where you plug into their grid. Have we looked into that? Because even if, even if the return on investment was 15 or 20 years and we were gonna start dropping instead of doubling, it might behoove us to look into that.
My understanding of that is if they put that solar array up, out on the highway,
And on commercial buildings. And on buildings in town.
and that you're subscribing
Right.
to solar energy, doesn't mean that the kilowatt that you get came from there. It's just that you actually pay a premium for your electric service for the privilege of subscribing to the solar program.
I'd like to hear somebody on solar come to the
I got a
board.
guy that'll come and do a presentation.
I'd like that.
Or we can get citizens, I mean, Ronnie.
You can give citizens a chance to present as well.
Richard
It'd be great to have somebody from outside too.
He's got all the paperwork, everything. I give him all the
Do
information.
that, work session.
Great, thank you,
Work
sir.
session.
Any questions?
Great job, Sandra, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anything else I want to cover for the work session?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Police, yeah, when are we looking at police?
2 weeks from now, I believe. Ask the mayor.
Mayor, when's, we're doing
Yeah.
2 weeks, are we doing, or are we doing one in,
Can we wait 2 weeks to do it in the regular meeting?
or do we need to do it earlier?
It's kind of doing
Police,
Okay, we don't have time to do the police budget at our next meeting because we have to adopt the budget, the first reading at the next meeting. So we have to have a special meeting to do police.
Tuesday?
Pick a
Next
time and place.
Thursday work, the
Next
30th?
Thursday?
Yes.
5 o'clock?
That would work.
Sounds like a plan. Where?
Here.
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 Okay.
Same time, same channel.
And you'll send out the information, Pam?
Yeah.
Sue, we should both be. Thank you.
Chief wants to do it now.
I'm just kidding.
Are you ready?
The mayor's like, too bad.
12 minutes.
Down to 12.
Well, if you had it, we could do it after the meeting.
11 and a half.
Well, we can't, because we don't have to, it's going to be public, so if we wanted to do it tonight, we can do it after, I don't, looking at our agenda.
No, we have to.
Have to publish it.
Has to be published.
Okay. Too bad. 30th it is.
Are we done, boss?
Yeah, we're done for a little while. Take a break, we'll have about 10 minutes. 12 minutes.
Water off for a while. What's that? Get the water off for that, okay?
No.
You good? Yeah. Really?
Well, I got him that day.